Tape number 1, Side B. Lesson 6. Mrs. Carter's Letter to George.
Last week, George Carter wrote to his parents in Los Angeles. He told them that he had a nice apartment in Oakland and that he was enjoying his job as an English teacher. George also told his parents about Carolyn Tanabe. He said that she was a very attractive and sensible girl, and that he would like to invite her to his parents' house during the Christmas vacation. Today, George received an answer to his letter from his mother. Here is what his mother wrote in the first part of her letter. Listen.
Dear George, your father and I were very glad to get your letter of October 15th. We were a bit worried about you because you didn't write earlier. But I understand that you were very busy, and I don't suppose you had much free time during your first 2 weeks in Oakland. Anyway, we are very happy that you have found a nice apartment and that you like your new job. I'm sure it's very interesting to teach students from so many different countries. I hope you'll be able to help them with their English. We were very interested to hear about Carolyn. She sounds like a very nice girl, and I am eager to meet her. You said that you were going to invite her to stay with us for a few days during the Christmas vacation. And of course, we will be delighted to welcome her. We still have a spare bedroom, and I don't think we will have any other guests for Christmas. You said that you didn't know if Carolyn would accept the invitation, so please ask her soon and tell me if she can come. If Carolyn comes, we will have to get the room ready for her. Now, for some news about the rest of the family.
Now, answer these questions.
When did George write a letter?
He wrote a letter last week.
Who did George tell his parents about?
He told them about Carolyn Tanabe.
What's Carolyn like?
She's a very attractive and sensible girl.
Who did George receive a letter from?
He received a letter from his mother.
Did she say she was very glad to get George's letter?
Yes, she did.
Did she say that she and George's father were a bit worried?
Yes, she did.
Why were they a bit worried about George?
Because he didn't write earlier.
Who were his parents interested to hear about?
They were interested to hear about Carolyn.
What does she sound like?
She sounds like a very nice girl.
Who will be delighted to welcome her?
George's parents will.
What room do they still have?
They still have a spare bedroom.
Will they have other guests for Christmas?
No, they won't.
Does George know if Carolyn will accept the invitation?
No, he doesn't.
Why doesn't he know?
Because he hasn't asked her yet.
Now, ask Mrs. Carter these questions about her son George. Ask her if George has found an apartment yet.
Has George found an apartment yet?
Ask her if George is coming home for the Christmas vacation.
Is George coming home for the Christmas vacation?
Ask her who he's inviting.
Who is he inviting?
Ask her what Carolyn sounds like.
What does Carolyn sound like?
End of Lesson 6. Lesson 7. Frank tries to make a date with Carolyn.
Carolyn has just finished teaching an advanced English class at the Language Institute in Oakland. And now she is talking to one of her students. His name is Francisco, but Carolyn calls him Frank because they must use English names in class. The atmosphere at the Institute is friendly and informal, so the students call the teachers by their first names too. Frank doesn't say Miss Tanabe, he says Carolyn. Frank is from Bolivia in South America, and his father is very rich. Frank likes Carolyn very much, and he wants her to be his girlfriend. But Carolyn doesn't want to be Frank's girlfriend because she likes George Carter. That's why the conversation is a bit embarrassing for Carolyn. Listen to their conversation.
Very interesting class, Caroline. I think you are a good teacher.
Thank you, Frank. I always enjoy teaching this advanced class. All of you study very hard.
Yes, the people in this class is very nice.
That isn't correct English, Frank. You mustn't say people is. You should say people are.
Yes, I know, but I always forget. English is very difficult for me sometimes.
Oh, I wouldn't say that. You speak very well.
Today is very beautiful. You like the sunshine?
Yes, of course.
You know I have a new sports car?
No. What make is it?
It's a Porsche. Very beautiful, very fast. Would you like to come for a drive in the mountains, Caroline?
I'm sorry, Frank. I've got to teach another class. Anyway, you shouldn't go for a drive today. You should study English.
I don't mean today. I mean next Saturday. Okay? The weather should be nice on Saturday, too.
I'm afraid I've already made other plans for Saturday, Frank.
Can you make it?
Now, answer these questions. Which class has Carolyn just finished teaching?
She's just finished teaching an advanced English class.
She's talking to one of her students, isn't she?
Yes, she is.
Does Carolyn call him Frank?
Yes, she does.
What must the students use in class?
They must use English names.
Is the atmosphere at the Institute formal or informal?
It's informal.
Frank doesn't like Carolyn, does he?
Yes, he does.
Does he want her to be his girlfriend?
Yes, he does.
Carolyn doesn't want to be Frank's girlfriend, does she?
No, she doesn't.
Why doesn't she want to be his girlfriend?
Because she likes George Carter.
Is this an embarrassing situation then?
Yes, it is.
What does Frank have?
He has a new sports car.
What make is it?
It's a Porsche.
Does he invite Carolyn to go for a drive?
Yes, he does.
Why can't Carolyn go?
Because she's already made other plans.
Now, imagine that you are Carolyn's friend and ask her some questions. Ask her what she's just finished teaching
What have you just finished teaching?
Ask her why the students use English names.
Why do the students use English names?
Ask her what the atmosphere at the Institute is like.
What's the atmosphere at the Institute like?
Ask her where Frank is from.
Where's Frank from?
Ask her if she wants to be Frank's girlfriend.
Do you want to be Frank's girlfriend?
End of Lesson 7. Lesson 8. Frank's plans for the future.
Carolyn is still talking to Frank. Frank is one of her students at the Institute. He's from Bolivia, and his real name is Francisco. Frank has a new sports car, and he is trying to make a date with Carolyn to go for a drive in the mountains. Carolyn is making excuses because she doesn't want to go out with Frank. As you know, she likes George Carter. Listen to their conversation.
Would you like to come for a drive in the mountains, Caroline?
I'm sorry, Frank. I've got to teach another class. Anyway, you shouldn't go for a drive today. You should study English.
I don't mean today. I mean next Saturday. Okay, the weather should be nice on Saturday too.
I'm afraid I've already made other plans for Saturday, Frank.
What about Sunday then?
Sunday? Oh no, that's impossible. My parents said they might be coming to see me on Sunday.
They might be coming, you said. So that means maybe they won't come. Why don't you call them up and find out?
Oh, I'm sure they will come. Anyway, I'm very busy.
Americans are always busy. They don't know how to relax. I hope maybe someday you can come to Bolivia, Caroline. Then I could show you around.
It must be a very beautiful country.
Yes, we have wonderful mountains. You should see them. And my people are very friendly.
There are a lot of Indians, aren't there?
Yes, they live very high in the mountains. They are very poor. When I go back to Bolivia, I'm going to help them. They need jobs and schools and doctors. My father, you know, is very old-fashioned. He says the Indians are lazy and they don't want to work.
But you don't believe that, do you?
No, I don't. We must build more schools. When they're educated, they will work.
I'm sure you're right, Frank.
Maybe we can have dinner some evening. I'd like to tell you more things about my country.
Well, maybe sometime when I'm free. Oh, here comes George. Excuse me, Frank. I have to see him about one of the classes.
Well, see you later, Caroline.
Can you make it?
Now, answer these questions. Would Carolyn like to go for a drive in the mountains?
No, she wouldn't.
Carolyn has to teach another class, doesn't she?
Yes, she does.
Should Frank go for a drive today?
No, he shouldn't.
What should Frank do?
He should study English.
Has Carolyn made other plans for Saturday?
Yes, she has.
When might Carolyn's parents be coming to see her?
They might be coming to see her on Sunday.
Does that mean that maybe they won't come?
Yes, it does.
Are the Indians rich or poor?
They're very poor.
When is Frank going to help them?
When he goes back to Bolivia.
What does he say they need?
He says they need jobs, and schools and doctors.
What does Frank's father say?
He says Indians are lazy.
Would Frank like to tell Carolyn more things about Bolivia?
Yes, he would.
Does Carolyn have to see George?
Yes, she does.
What does she have to see him about?
She has to see him about one of the classes.
Now, imagine that you are Frank's friend and ask him some questions. Ask him if Carolyn would like to go for a drive.
Would Carolyn like to go for a drive?
Ask him how the weather should be on Saturday.
How should the weather be on Saturday?
Ask him if Carolyn's parents will be coming on Sunday.
Will Carolyn's parents be coming on Sunday?
Ask him if the mountains in Bolivia are beautiful.
Are the mountains in Bolivia beautiful?
Ask him what they must build in Bolivia.
What must they build in Bolivia?
End of Lesson 8. Lesson 9. Carolyn and George talk about Frank.
Carolyn was talking to Frank, one of her students, in one of the classrooms. She was very relieved when George arrived, because Frank was trying to make a date with her, and she didn't want to accept. Now, she and George are talking. Listen to their conversation.
Who was that fellow you were talking to?
That was Frank, one of my students. His real name's Francisco. He's a Bolivian. He must be pretty rich. He's just bought a new sports car, a Porsche.
A Porsche? That must have cost him over $10,000. What was he talking to you about? Is he having trouble with his English?
No, his English is fine. He was trying to make a date with me.
A date?
Yes. He wanted to take me for a drive in his Porsche.
Did you accept?
No, George, I didn't. I was making all kinds of excuses. Then you arrived and I was able to escape.
You shouldn't have made excuses. You should have told him directly that you didn't want to go out with him.
George, please don't tell me what I should do and what I shouldn't do. He's a very nice young man, and I didn't want to hurt his feelings.
I can't stand these rich South Americans. They come here with thousands of dollars and live like kings. And the poor people in their countries can't get enough food to eat.
Frank isn't like that. He said he wants to help the poor people in his country.
Then he shouldn't have spent $10,000 on a sports car. He should have used the money to help his people.
He wasn't talking about now. He was talking about the future, when he goes back to Bolivia.
It's the same thing. If he doesn't help them now, he won't help them in the future either.
I don't agree.
He must have made a very good impression on you. You should have accepted his invitation.
Yes, maybe I should have. Now, would you excuse me, please? I have to prepare a class.
Well, I hope you have a good time with your rich Bolivian.
Yes, it should be very enjoyable.
Now, answer these questions. Is Frank having trouble with his English?
No, he isn't.
What was he trying to do?
He was trying to make a date with Carolyn.
Was Carolyn making all kinds of excuses?
Yes, she was.
When was she able to escape?
When George arrived.
George says she shouldn't have made excuses, doesn't he?
Yes, he does.
What should she have done?
She should have told him directly.
Did Carolyn want to hurt Frank's feelings?
No, she didn't.
What can't George stand?
He can't stand rich South Americans.
How do they live in the United States?
They live like kings.
Does George think the poor people in their countries get enough to eat?
No, he doesn't.
How does George say he should have used the money?
He says he should have used it to help his people.
But Frank was talking about the future, wasn't he?
Yes, he was.
When will Frank help the poor?
When he goes back to Bolivia.
Should Carolyn have accepted Frank's invitation?
Maybe she should have.
Now, imagine that you are George's friend and ask him some questions. Ask him if Frank has just bought a new sports car.
Has Frank just bought a new sports car?
Ask him if Carolyn should have made excuses.
Should Carolyn have made excuses?
Ask him if Frank should have spent $10,000 on a sports car.
Should Frank have spent $10,000 on a sports car?
Ask him if Frank made a good impression on Carolyn.
Did Frank make a good impression on Carolyn?
End of Lesson 9. Lesson 10. George and Carolyn make up.
Yesterday morning, George and Carolyn had a quarrel, and they didn't speak to each other all day. But last night they both felt sorry, and they realized that the quarrel was stupid. It is now the next morning. Carolyn is alone in the teacher's room when George comes in. Listen to their conversation.
Good morning, Carolyn.
Good morning.
Carolyn,
Yes, George?
Carolyn, about yesterday. I'm sorry, I was very rude to you. I didn't mean it.
It wasn't your fault, George. It was mine. I was rude to you.
No, you weren't.
Yes, I was.
No, you weren't.
Yes, I was.
Okay, you win. But let's not argue anymore. We don't want another quarrel, do we?
No, never again.
Let's forget about it. And let's forget about Frank, too.
Poor Frank. You shouldn't have been jealous, George. You know that I didn't intend to go out with him. Do you have any plans for the weekend?
I thought maybe we could go for a drive in the mountains.
In your Porsche?
I hope you don't mind an old Ford.
It's my favorite car.
Good, and there's one thing I'd like to ask you.
What's that?
Would you like to spend a few days at my house during the Christmas vacation? I wrote to my parents about it, and my mother said she'd love to meet you.
I'd be delighted, George. You know, I was planning to invite you to my house. I also wrote to my parents about you.
And did your mother say she'd love to meet me?
That's what she said.
Well, we'll have to divide the vacation between your house and mine. I'm really looking forward to Christmas.
And I am too.
Now, answer these questions. When did George and Carolyn have a quarrel?
They had a quarrel yesterday morning.
Did they speak to each other all day?
No, they didn't.
How did they feel last night?
They both felt sorry.
Who apologized first?
George did.
Did George mean to be rude?
No, he didn't.
Does Carolyn say it was her fault?
Yes, she does.
Who says Carolyn wasn't rude?
George does.
Does George have any plans for the weekend?
Yes, he does.
What kind of car does George have?
He has an old Ford.
Would Carolyn like to spend a few days at George's house?
Yes, she would.
Who wrote to his parents?
George did.
What did his mother say?
She said that she'd love to meet Carolyn.
What was Carolyn planning to do?
She was planning to invite George to her house.
Who did Carolyn write her parents about?
She wrote them about George.
What did her mother say?
She said she'd love to meet George.
Will they divide the Christmas vacation?
Yes, they will.
Now, pretend you are Carolyn's friend and ask her some questions. Ask her if she and George had a quarrel.
Did you and George have a quarrel?
Ask her if they both felt sorry.
Did you both feel sorry?
Ask her if she has any plans for the weekend.
Do you have any plans for the weekend?
Ask her what kind of car George has.
What kind of car does George have?
Ask her where she's going to spend the Christmas vacation.
Where are you going to spend the Christmas vacation?
End of Lesson 10. Test after Lesson 10. Listen to this part of the letter Linda has written to her parents about her life at college. Then you will hear 10 statements about the letter. If the statement is correct or true, mark the letter T. If it is wrong or false, mark the letter F. Listen to the letter.
You'll be interested to know that I have met a very nice boy here. He's from New Orleans, and his name is Jerry Townsend. I don't know him very well yet, but I think he's a very interesting and sensible boy. We have the same interests, too. For example, Jerry loves tennis and driving. Last Sunday he invited me to play tennis, and after the game we had lunch together at the club restaurant.
Now begin.
Number 1.
Linda has met a very nice boy.
Number 2.
Linda comes from New Orleans.
Number 3.
Linda's boyfriend's name is Jerry.
Number 4.
Linda knows Jerry very well.
Number 5.
Jerry isn't a very interesting person.
Number 6.
Linda and Jerry both like tennis.
Number 7.
Jerry doesn't like driving.
Number 8.
Linda refused Jerry's invitation to play tennis.
Number 9.
Linda and Jerry played tennis last Sunday.
Number 10.
Linda and Jerry had dinner at the club restaurant.
End of test after Lesson 10. End of Side B.